Russell Westbrook is a beast. He's one of the best players in the NBA today, with his ridiculous athleticism, his mile-a-minute mentality, and his ability to attack the paint like a crazy person. But what if he never ended up with Oklahoma City and in fact found himself on a different franchise when he was drafted in 2008? How would that have happened? Well, if we revisit the 2008 NBA draft, Derrick Rose still goes number 1, but if Russell Westbrook is drafted number 2 by the Miami Heat, what exactly happens here? Well, if we explore the rest of the top of this draft, the T-Wolves end up with Michael Beasley. Sorry, T-Wolves fans, you still get him regardless. And then it starts to get real at number 4 because the Oklahoma City Thunder select Kevin Love. There's no more point guards available, they gotta pick somebody, so they go with Love, and immediately Oklahoma City fans are excited about the young tandem of Durant as well as Kevin Love. But here's where it gets interesting. Later on in that very same draft, the Thunder would go on to select Serge Ibaka 24th overall. In this situation, however, because they already have Kevin Love, who's a power forward, they don't want to get redundant with their draft picks. They need to fill other areas. So instead of Serge Ibaka, they select George Hill 24th overall because they need a point guard. They don't have Russell Westbrook in this scenario. And you'll see the dominoes start to fall here as this now opens up Houston with the 25th overall pick to select Serge Ibaka because they need to get more athletic up front. Now, as we all know, the San Antonio Spurs initially drafted George Hill with the 26th overall pick, but now since he's in Oklahoma City, they have to go somewhere else. They decide to draft Nicholas Batum, who was originally drafted by Houston and then traded to Portland. The Spurs decide to keep Batum because they're intrigued by his abilities as well as his size when it comes to shooting, his passing. He seems like a very promising NBA player. Now on to the 2008/2009 season. Westbrook looks very intriguing for the Miami Heat, but it is clear that he's going to have some work done when it comes to his efficiency and his shot selection. But not only that, the organization pressures him to learn how to play off-ball because Dwayne Wade is still one of the best players in the league, and Westbrook is not going to have the ball in his hands all the time because you got to give it to D. Wade. But even with that, Miami would still go on to make the playoffs against the Atlanta Hawks in round 1, and while Dwayne Wade carries the team as much as he can, Westbrook clearly not ready for this level of basketball this quickly into his NBA career. They lose in round 1. And, like I mentioned, the organization says, man, you gotta learn how to shoot, dude, okay? We need you playing off of Dwayne Wade. And he gets in the gym, he starts hoisting him up, but it is gonna take some time. As far as how that season would end, Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Orlando Magic in the NBA Finals in 5 games. On to the 2009 draft, Blake Griffin still goes number 1 overall to the Clippers, shout out to him. Hasheem Thabeet is one of the worst busts ever for the Grizzlies. And James Harden still goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 3, which is interesting later on. Now for the 2009-2010 season, Dwayne Wade continues being one of the top guys in the league, but Russell Westbrook follows him as well as he makes an improvement on his game, and Miami fans are now ecstatic about the potential of these two players in their backcourt, potentially leading them to an NBA championship one day. Now, with that being said, Russell Westbrook, he's not going to progress too much on his shooting in only 1 season, but he's making progress. However, Russ also gets his taste of some real NBA defense against the Celtics, and Miami once again knocked out against a top team in the East. Now, how's it going out west for OKC without Westbrook? Well, Kevin Durant still looks great, and Kevin Love is emerging as an exciting power forward, but there are questions about his defense. Now, we will say that in this scenario, James Harden, he is going to be on OKC permanently. They don't trade him away to maintain salary, so that's good. But OKC still does lose in round 1 to the Lakers, but there's a lot of potential going on with that team right now, and the Lakers would also win their 2nd championship in a row, defeating the Celtics in a pretty wild 7-game series. Now, during those playoffs, the San Antonio Spurs would get swept in the 2nd round to the Phoenix Suns, but Nicholas Batum shows that he seems like a player they can invest in with his ability to shoot from outside, dribble the ball, as well as be a passer for San Antonio, so they're excited about him moving forward. Now, the 2010 NBA draft remains the same. John Wall goes number 1, Derek Favors, Wesley Johnson, DeMarcus Cousins. They all go to their same spots. But here's where it gets real. As we all know, in this offseason, LeBron James, after losing to the Boston Celtics one too many times, he's wearing the wrong jersey, don't worry about it. He decides to himself, you know what? I don't know if Cleveland is right for me anymore. They're not surrounding me with the best talent. Perhaps I need to go somewhere else to give myself a real chance at a championship and to get Skip Bayless to shut up. Chris Bosh is thinking similar things in Toronto. And then we all know what the hell happened. They both went to Miami and formed the Big Three, and NBA Twitter went wild. But how does Russell Westbrook fit into this dynamic? Well, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not exactly perfect. He does find himself without the ball more often now, because, of course, D-Wade and LeBron and Bosh, they're the guys who are going to be running this. They're the veterans, they're the better players. But Westbrook still has his moments, and more than a few, to where the rest of the guys go, this dude can definitely play. But sometimes, as Westbrook is going in isolations, Miami fans just say, why the hell are Dwayne Wade and LeBron James standing in the corner for this dude to go one-on-one? Is definitely a discussion. But luckily, Westbrook also does develop some off-ball abilities while he's still waiting for that jump shot to really show up for them. And now if we fast forward to the playoffs and also look to the Western Conference, OKC would find themselves up against the Dallas Mavericks, and while OKC is a really intimidating offensive team with Kevin Durant and Kevin Love and James Harden, a real big three from an offensive standpoint, going from Serge Ibaka to K-Love, their defense suffered, and Dirk and the crew would defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder in only 5 games as they head on to the NBA Finals to face said Miami Heat. And if we remember this series, Dirk Nowitzki hit a lot of huge shots. The Miami Heat really struggled when it came to dealing with Dallas's defense. And LeBron James, he got in his own head and he was not able to be one of the all-time players like we know of him now. And if that's going to still happen, I don't know if Westbrook can beat these guys in only his 3rd season. So, while Dwayne Wade really carries the ship for Miami, Dallas's defense is able to psych out both LeBron and Westbrook, and the Mavericks still win the 2011 NBA championship. And this is a wake-up call for Westbrook, because Pat Riley says, dude, if you don't learn how to shoot and play off of these guys right now, I'm going to consider trading you. So he gets in the gym, he starts hoisting them up as much as he can, and hopefully it works out for him in the Miami Heat. Now our next big domino falls in the 2011 NBA Draft. Kyrie Irving goes number 1, but at number 14, originally the Houston Rockets selected Marcus Morris. But at this time, they don't know if he's a small forward or if he's a power forward, and since they already have Serge Ibaka, who's promising at that spot, they look to go somewhere else with their draft pick, and so they select Kawhi Leonard at number 14, who originally went 15 to Indiana before being traded to San Antonio, and so now Houston is already building up a great defensive and athletic foundation with Ibaka and Kawhi Leonard. Oh, and by the way, there's no George Hill for San Antonio to trade for Kawhi Leonard because they already have Nicholas Batum at the small forward spot, and they like Batum, and at this point they're both young, they don't know how good Kawhi ends up becoming. And then with the 15th overall pick, Indiana would go on to select Marcus Morris, who originally went 14th to Houston. And speaking of the Rockets, they also would select Chandler Parsons in the 2nd round, so they're building up a nice young team over in Houston. Now for the 2011-2012 season, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, they keep on keeping on, but we finally see the real progress from Westbrook with his jumper, because it was threatened that he was going to be traded, and to be in this good of a situation this early in his career, safe to say you want to be in that, so he develops an ability to play off the ball a bit more, and Miami runs through the Eastern Conference in the regular season, although they are challenged a bit in the conference finals by the Boston Celtics, who pushed them all the way to 7 games. But as we know, these guys would beat the Celtics in real life. You add Russell Westbrook to the equation, they're going on to the NBA Finals. And then off in the West, we have San Antonio versus Oklahoma City, and as we know, the Thunder won this series in real life, and they definitely pushed San Antonio for all they can handle. But unfortunately, once again, the defensive woes of Kevin Love and this team just not good enough to go up against San Antonio. Nicholas Batum also growing as a player, and so we have our first of more than a few times in which Miami meets San Antonio in the NBA Finals in this equation. It's a back-and-forth series. San Antonio, of course, a fantastic passing team. I mentioned Nicholas Batum growing into a really quality small forward for them. Tim Duncan's still a beast down low. However, LeBron James is not going to lose another NBA Finals. And so he, Dwayne Wade, and Russell Westbrook managed to outlast San Antonio in a really tough 6 or 7 game series. LeBron gets his first trophy. You can picture Russell Westbrook right next to him if you want to. And Anthony Davis in the 2012 draft go completely unchanged. And then the Miami Heat, once again, best team in the Eastern Conference in 2012/13. As for Kawhi Leonard and the Rockets, they're good, but they're still pretty damn young. They need some more time. But it's bad news bears for a few teams. Kevin Love misses the majority of the year with some hand injuries. And Russell Westbrook also gets some bad news in round 1 because you got to stick to the injuries in these what-if videos. He has some lower body injuries. This is the best picture I can give you. So he's out of the playoffs for the Miami Heat, which is going to be a big problem for them. We see Oklahoma City and the Spurs in the playoffs once again. And Nicholas Batum's getting the Kawhi Leonard treatment because finding himself in a perfect situation under the Spurs and Popovich, he's really elevating to a top-tier player. And Tim Duncan keeps on being a beast. Why did they trade for Kendrick Perkins? I don't know. But we do have to remember something. This Miami team made it to the NBA Finals without Russell Westbrook ever happening for them, and we also have to remember that Batum's nice, but he's no Kawhi Leonard. It makes LeBron James' job a little bit easier, and so even without Russell Westbrook on the roster, LeBron still carries this Heat team to their second straight NBA Finals. Shout out to him. But now the dominoes really start falling in 2013 after Bennett gets drafted number 1. If we remember in this free agency, Dwight Howard chose to sign with the Houston Rockets after his disappointing stint with the Lakers. Well, here's the thing. He's not going to sign with the Rockets now because while they're a promising team, they don't have James Harden. He's still on OKC. They're a young team years away. So he actually ends up on the Golden State Warriors. If you go back and look, this was very close to happening. They'd have to clear some space, but they could do it. But then, what happens to Andre Iguodala because they quote-unquote settled for Iguodala when they couldn't get Dwight? Well, Iggy actually ends up with the Dallas Mavericks, who were going to be his number 2 choice until Golden State was able to get him originally. But then, what happens to Monte Ellis, who originally signed with the Dallas Mavericks? Well, he goes over to the Houston Rockets because they got Ibaka and Kawhi Leonard for the defense, but they need some offensive punch, and they hope that Ellis can be that guy for them. So, wait a minute, Dwight Howard is in Golden State over Andre Iguodala? Does the small ball lineup of death still happen? I don't know. But also we see, moving into the next season, Dwayne Wade realizes he has to take a step back because injuries, age, it's all starting to come to fruition for him, and he realizes how good Russell Westbrook is for Miami, so Westbrook officially becomes the number 2 guy for the Heat. And of course, LeBron James is still LeBron James being a beast. Now, once we get past the 2013/14 NBA season and we get to the playoffs, once again, OKC has the realization of, we might have to make some roster moves here because we're fantastic offensively, but we just don't have the defensive chops to really compete with the other teams in the West. And so fans begin saying, we'll trade Kevin Love, guys. Get us some athleticism. Get us some defense at that power forward position. We already have enough with Durant and Harden. Let's go here. But we also learned something about San Antonio as well. Going from Kawhi Leonard to Nicholas Batum still makes them better than everybody in the West, but it does not make them good enough to defeat this Miami Heat team. So as a result, Westbrook, LeBron, they go for their 3rd straight NBA championship. LeBron got himself a nice 3-peat. Skip Bayless might have already left ESPN at this rate. 2014 NBA draft, Andrew Wiggins never gets traded to the T-Wolves, and while Cleveland does not have a championship chance at the moment, they are pretty exciting with Kyrie Irving and Wiggins, so they got that going for them. But here's the emergence of the Golden State Warriors in the 2014-2015 season. Dwight still being Dwight, but Draymond, because of a David Lee injury, shows just how important small ball can be with his defense and outside shooting. Steph Curry, of course, still kills it. Golden State emerges out of the West. And just for good measure, the Los Angeles Clippers make their first conference finals because they go up against the Houston Rockets in the second round this time. But Kawhi's offense, it's not really there yet to lead a team. And then Steph and his crew go through the Clippers in about 5 or 6 games. And then we see 2 straight years of the Miami Heat with LeBron wearing the wrong number, as well as the Golden State Warriors going at it in the finals. And I gotta be honest, I don't know if Dwight Howard over Andre Iguodala is a good thing for Golden State. We already saw what LeBron James did to them this season with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think there's a chance LeBron just goes friggin' God mode, and while Steph Curry and the Warriors have a really good chance to give him a challenge, I think LeBron James just kind of dominates the NBA with Russell Westbrook at his side. So if you thought they were just going to run the league with this tandem of Westbrook on the Heat, yeah, you were kind of right.